Brian Mudd Show is on News Radio 610 WIOD.
And of course, DACA has been an on-again, off-again debate. And one of the great ironies surrounding DACA has been you had it signed into existence through executive action. And yet the court system, by and large, has thwarted the Trump administration's efforts to alter it via executive action. The older DACA class, in which we have DACA recipients, I think now are in their 30s. You'll often hear about the DACA kids. Many of them are DACA adults. Here to talk about this and other related matters, Victor Avila, once again, retired ICE Supervisory Special Assistant. Victor, good morning.
Good morning, Brian. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. So let's talk a little bit about the incentives surrounding DACA. You know, at its most altruistic, there could be some very positive outcomes that might exist as a result of the issuance of the program. At its worst, it might create an incentive for illegal activity within our country. From your expertise with ICE, tell us how DACA can play out in ways that often might not be reported in news media.
Well, first of all, what you already touched on, it's DACA is not a law. And when President Obama issued that executive order under the Obama-Biden presidency, it was just that. There's no legislation behind it. And so that's one of the biggest problems. Even the higher courts have considered it a possibly unconstitutional for dealing with it moving forward. And so what the order came down on Friday, it now opens the doors for even more fraud for new applicants, because that they're saying they're accepting a new request to be considered. And so now all of a sudden you have people that maybe were not brought in as children when they were 2 years old. And by the way, you are 100% correct. These kids are no longer children. They're in their 20s, late 20s, and even 30s. And so now you open the door for a lot more fraud of kids that maybe were brought in last week. And so when do we set that line and deal with the people that maybe might qualify and look at them specifically? And what I say is a vetting process. That's the number one word I would use. I understand the kids that were brought here 20 years ago when they were 2, they have no idea what another country is like. Let's look at them on a case-by-case basis, because a lot of those kids that were brought at 2, guess what? A lot of them grew up and became criminals. Our criminal aliens have committed a lot of crimes here in this country. So you just cannot blanket this across the board and give everyone permits to path to citizenship.
When orders like this come down, does it encourage unlawful activity for people that are coming into this country to try to have their kids, for example, participate?
Absolutely. It's the magnet that I always talk about. The U.S. is always providing that magnet and that message that we send down to Mexico, Central America, and frankly, the rest of the world, that we're saying, come on over. We're opening the door. And so if this order would happen to, it's going to come through, if it comes through, then all of a sudden you're going to see an enormous amount of applicants saying, well, guess what? We're DACA as well. Give us the same recourse and the same opportunity, when, in fact, they would not qualify for it.
Yeah, it is something that often isn't discussed in these terms. And it's an important conversation, because the more that we usurp our Constitution and constitutional processes, like, for example, we're talking about with executive actions, the implications are often many down the line. You take a look at this moment. We spoke recently, and you were talking about just the knowledge for those that might be illegal operators south of our border, just the knowledge that the Biden administration represents a day one ending to the wall and perhaps a relaxing of enforcement measures. That will end up creating extra demand. You add this court ruling into it. What, from a criminal standpoint, is the sense of opportunism in moments like these where we see changes in policy? What do you expect is going to happen, for example, over the next few months?
We will see an influx of hundreds of thousands of people coming through to our southern border. And you're absolutely right, Brian. They will bring the criminal element will infiltrate themselves within these huge caravans, these crowds that come not only what we call the special interest aliens that come from special interest countries that come with different intentions. We're not talking about the economic reasons that most of the people want to come here for to better themselves. We're talking about people that want to come to this country to hurt us. And so that's where it becomes a matter of national security to be able to protect our U.S. citizens and the safety and security of our U.S. citizens in our country. And so unfortunately, those criminal elements that infiltrate themselves into these crowds basically ruin whatever other opportunities the other people might have. Plus, let's not forget, the people that are doing this legally through the legal immigration system, the people that have been waiting in line and continue to do it the right way, although albeit a system that needs reform as well. However, they've been patient. They've been paying their fines. They've been paying their fees to do it the right way. But all of a sudden, all these illegals, 100,000 people cut in line and are expected to be brought in. But there's a laundry list of things that will happen under the Biden administration. For example, a quick one is the Remain in Mexico order that by President Trump. He would undo that immediately. And so you have approximately 25,000 people just waiting on the other side of the border. Well, all of a sudden, they're going to come in, be brought in, and released into the country to wait in our country rather than in their host or hometown to be waiting for asylum cases. So there's a lot of things that are going to happen that are going to be undone, which I think the Biden administration is going to realize they're not going to be able to do it immediately by the stroke of a pen. It's going to take phases, and I hope they realize it's going to take time because it's cumbersome policies that you just cannot undo from one day to the other.
Victor Avila, retired ICE Supervisory Special Agent. Victor, thank you very much for your time and the information. It's appreciated.
Thank you so much, Brian.